For this tutorial, we're going to do this Pucker Out Project Tote. It does make two sizes. You have two sizes to choose from. It's from Bodobo Bags. I got mine from the Quilted Cow. I think it's going to be a super cool bag. So you can either make the petite tote or you can make the large tote. I am going to be making the large tote, so here's everything that you need. And I just went ahead and got a kit from the Quilted Cow, of course, because they always do an amazing job selecting fabrics and everything is just together. Saves me time. So here I've got everything cut out. I've got my webbing for the handle. I've got my zipper that came with it. These are my grommets. They're curtain grommets. They just kind of, I think they screw together. I've never used them, but it's not the type of ones that you need like a grommet special tool. All right. Here's all my shape flex cut out, and I even just wrote on it what it's for, so when I go to use it, I know exactly. It's just with my friction pen, so it'll erase when I go ahead and use it. Here's all my material. There's two pieces here. This is the main part. That's going to be the bottom. This is the lining. It's like a gray, basic gray grunge. That's really neat. We've got the optional, I think, zipper pocket. This is going to make the other pockets, and this is going to go on the outside for the handles to wrap around. So now that I've got everything cut out, let's get started. Alright, so the first step is going to be making what they're going to refer to throughout the pattern as your outside panel. So this is my bag bottom, and it is right side up, and these are my two pieces that are going to make like the main part of the tote here. Okay, so I have got, I'm going to sew them one at a time to each side. So I'm going to sew this one on first, then I'm going to attach this one to this side. Now mine is, I would say it's directional fabric. So when I'm laying it down, I was kind of thinking of, okay, when I open it up, and since this is the bottom, that means, how do I explain that? That's how it's going to open up, and the bottom I think is going to fold under. So this is how it's going to look. I'm just picturing it before I lay it down. This is how it's going to look when I have the strap through it. So this will be the top of it. So basically this is the top of your directional fabric, and that is laying in. That should work, yeah. All right. So this is at the bottom of the bag. So I'm just going to align that, and then I'm going to sew that using my seam allowance that the pattern has stated. And then for this one, it looks like this is directional. This should be the top of my bag. So I'm going to lay it, when I'm done sewing this one, I'm going to open it up and then lay this one on, and then sew it on here after I get everything aligned. Okay, and so when I have it both sewn, my seam here, I'm going to press, imagine there's a sew line there, I'm going to take it over to the iron and press my seam toward the top part of my fabric, and then I'm going to have my outside panel made. Alright, so here's what the outside panel looks like when everything is sewed together, and yeah, it looks upside down, but that's because this is going to be the top of my bag, so it looks upside down now. But anyway, and then if I flip it over, you can see that I pressed, here's my seam, and I pressed it up toward the main on both sides. Alright, let's go on to the next step. Alright, so what I'm doing now is, this is the shape flex that I cut for the outside panel, and it's quite long because it covers the whole panel, but this is the back of it, and then with fusible interfacing, you have a very smooth side and you have like a bumpy side, and that bumpy side is like your glue side. So you want like the bumpy side toward the back of your fabric, and you're going to now take your iron and you're going to just slowly work the iron over it, and it's going to fuse that interfacing to your piece. Now I usually start in the middle and then I work my way towards the outer edges. It's really important that you try not to get any bubbles in your shape flex as you're fusing it, and you really want to make sure that you steam and adhere all of the edges. So make sure you get all the outside edges really well. You don't want any of this to pucker up or come undone. After you have fused all of this, you're going to do the same thing, and there's a piece of fusible fleece that you're going to have to cut that is the same size as your outside panel, and that's going to get fused right over this shape flex. So it's going to give the outside of your bag a lot of stability. So I'm just going to keep going on this and fuse this all the way, and then I'm going to put my fusible fleece over it and then fuse it in the same method to my outside panel. Alright, so now that I have the shape flex and the fusible fleece adhered, it's pretty structured. What you're going to do now is you're going to top stitch about, you can choose 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch away from the seam on the top fabric, not on the bottom fabric. You want to do it on the top fabric, and you're going to do that to both sides. So I'm going to come here and come up 1/4 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch and then top stitch all the way down. You can do a regular stitch, you can do a decorative stitch. It's your bag. Do whatever appeases you. Okay, I'm going to go do that. So you can see from the back, that was my top stitching on one side, and all I've done was folded my bag in half. Here's like the top of my bag, there's the raw edges, and I wanted to make sure, I have a clip in there, but the seam where the bottom meets the top, I matched it up really good on that side, and I matched it up really good on that side. And then from there, I just smoothed my fabric out and clipped everything together, and it really aligned really well. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this to the machine, and I'm going to sew 1/4 of an inch all the way down this side and all the way down that side. And then it looks like we're going to box our corners. Alright, so to box the corners, I used my Quilted Cow, which is a great size. It's and I marked out the square that I needed in each corner, and then I cut it out. So to box them, what you're going to do is the sides are going to collapse out, and you are going to match the bottom there with this side seam, and the rest of it will lay flat. Okay, and then you're just going to so basically this is the fold, and you want the fold to collapse in to line up with that side seam. And then you can either pin it, you can clip it, and then you're going to sew it all the way down, and then you'll repeat the process with the second one. So it doesn't look great now because I'm just doing this one-handed, but once I get that bottom fold and this side seam matched up, and then everything else, the raw edges matching, I'll just sew 1/4 of an inch all the way down, straight line, and that will box my bag. So once it's done, it will look like this, and the bag should stand up. I just realized this is a pretty big bag, but I think the grommets will help it. And there's the other one, and there's what it looks like. I know it's dark, but I'm not turning it inside out, and I got my seams, I think, pretty well lined up there. And I'm not going to turn it inside out yet, but I think we're going to go on to make some pockets now. I'm working with my pockets right now, and you should have 2 of them. So the 2 pieces I have for my pockets, I've already adhered my shape flex. And now I am taking, these are the short sides, I've just folded my pocket in half, long side to long side, with right sides facing each other. And now I'm just sewing down this long side where my raw edges meet, because this is going to make like a tube. And then I'll flip it inside out and do a little top stitching. So after I turned it inside out, I gave it a good press, and this is my folded edge, and this is the part that has my seam that I sewed. So now I'm just going to top stitch all the way down. You can use a straight stitch, you can use a decorative stitch, totally your choice here. I'm just going to use a straight stitch, and then I'm going to complete my second pocket. Alright, so here is my liner, and I made a boo-boo. Somehow I didn't cut it long enough, so I had to sew my 2 pieces back together. That's why you see the seam, and then I adhered my shape flex. Oh well, it's just the inside. On my next one, Try not to make that mistake. But anyway, I just folded short side to short side, and then I gave it a crease so I could find the middle line. This will be like the middle of the bag. This is like you're looking at the bottom of the bag here. And I just drew my middle line with a friction pen. It will totally erase when I apply heat. And then I measured out from my middle line on both sides, and then I placed my pockets. Because this is the top of bag, this is the top of my pocket where I did my top stitching along the folds, and that's the bottom, so I've got them clipped into place. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew on the bottom about a scant 1/8 of an inch all the way along the bottom on both sides, and then I'm going to turn it and I'm going to sew maybe about scant 1/4 of an inch on both sides to put those pockets in place. And then according to the diagram on the pattern, I'm going to mark out all the pockets that I'm going to be sewing on. So I'm going to be marking my sew lines on my pockets, and then I'll be stitching on those so it can make all the individual little pockets. And you don't really have to follow the diagram. The diagram is just a guide. If you want bigger pockets or smaller pockets or wider pockets, it's totally customizable however you want to do it. So I'm just going to follow the pattern on this one, and then maybe my next one I'll change it up. Alright, I'm going to get to that. Alright, so I have finished. You can see there's a sew line, and this is quite a large pocket. So they had different layouts for the both pockets, and I followed the one for the large because I'm doing the large bag. And then here is another sew line. So I've got a small pocket here, a large pocket here, here, and this side is broken up a little bit more. So I've got a small pocket here, a little bit of a wider pocket here. These two are exactly the same, and then this one at the end is the same as this one. So definitely lots of pockets, and again, you can break it up if you want to take this large pocket and break it up into smaller. Customize it to your wants and your needs on either pocket, or just follow the diagram. So the next part is making the inside zipper pocket, and that's an optional piece, but I'm totally going to do it because I like some pockets and zipper pockets inside my bag. So I'm going to be doing that now. Alright, so this is my optional zipper pocket, which I'm going to do, and I adhered my Shapeflex. It wasn't as wide, so I just kind of centered it, and then it had the right length. So once I've used that, then the directions are actually really good for marking this. I mean, they've color coded it and diagrammed it really nicely. So I followed all those directions, and this is the short end. Okay, I just chose one short end. It doesn't matter what short end you do it on. And then I just followed the directions, color coded step by step, and checked with the diagram. It's a really wonderful diagram. So now it looks like we're going to do some cutting to make this opening here. I've done these before. These are interesting, and there's videos too. But I'll try to do a little bit more of the process here. But anyway, here's my diagram, and I just used one of my friction pens. It's going to disappear once I apply heat. But anyway, you can see the outline of where my zipper's going to go. Alright, so this is my lining. There's my pocket piece over there. I haven't done anything else yet except draw these lines that I forgot to draw before to make my little triangles on both ends. And then this is my lining, and you can choose whatever side. I chose the side that has the longer pocket here in the middle, and this is where my zipper is going to go. So now we're going to place this, and it is going to line up. Let me just look here. Alright, so for placement, you have right sides together, the right side of your pocket fabric to the right side of your lining. And then you're going to match up the center mark on your pocket piece that you did, and this is the center marking for my lining. And then also the vertical to the vertical one that you drew on your lining. And all this comes from your diagram, so just pay attention to the diagrams. The pattern is great with diagrams and explanation. Alright, and then I pinned it, some pins in place. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this in the machine, and I'm going to sew around this rectangular box. Okay, alright, so all the way. Alright, so it's hard to see it with my thread is pretty light, but I did all the way around. Now, you can use scissors, or if you have a super tiny rotary cutter, which I got for bags I've made before with this, which are really helpful, you're going to cut from this side, but do not cut what you sewed. You're going to cut all the way down the middle there, pressing through all the layers of fabric, and then you're going to also cut these triangle pieces here, making sure not to cut through your seam, and then on this side as well, and that's going to open that up for your zipper to go in later. Alright, so I'm just going to show it. I didn't start all the way over there. I started here where the triangle points met, and then I've got that done, and then the same here. I just came until I stopped where the triangle points, and then I did the clips there. Alright, so what I've done is the pocket used to be on this side, and I just took all the material and stuffed it through the opening, and this is what it looks like once I brought it to the other side. Like, this is the back side now. This is what it looks like when I brought it to the back, and I just kind of stretched as much as I'm able to and smoothed things out, and then I pressed it really good. And then I turned it over again and then just made sure everything was lining up and steamed it, pressed it really good from the back. Alright, so now I'm placing the zipper, and I used some of my Quilter Select glue, fabric glue stick. It's this bright yellow, and I placed it on either side of my zipper. And now I'm going to have to cut that. Yeah. Alright, and then I'm just lining up my opening here to where it should be on the zipper. The zipper, I'm going to have to make sure I want it close to the teeth but not on the teeth. And that yellow really helps. I want it to be able to open the zipper teeth. Just move that in a little bit. And I'll probably stick a few pins in as well, but that'll really help set it. And the zipper pull, you can move in a little bit more to the middle, put some pins, and then you're just going to sew around this opening to attach your fabric to the zipper. And this is the other side. So I attached that zipper here, and then I pulled it through that opening, and now it's on the back, and then I'm gluing my zipper before I start. You don't have to, but I like to. It helps hold it in place a little bit better. So now I'm going to stitch all the way around the perimeter of this opening. Alright, got that stitched around. Some of my other fabric decided to peek through, but anyway, got that. So now we're going to turn it around. Alright, and we are going to bring this. Now you can trim your zipper on both sides, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring this up to meet the other raw edge, and then we are going to be sewing this. Let's just take a peek here. I'm going to press it so it lays nice and flat, and then I'm going to sew the sides, and then I'm going to sew the top. And they have a nice diagram in there to show you how you can sew the top. Basically, you're going to take that fabric and roll it forward so it's out of the way so you can sew that top nice and easily. And the side fabric I'll just push under and away so that way I don't have any chance of sewing on it. Okay, so now I'm going to sew this pocket up. Alright, so there it is, all sewed up on the side, top, and the side. Alright, so there is my pocket. It's a nice, a deep pocket. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of finish the lining. So this is the step you would be at if you didn't do this, and it's the step you're at if you did do this. So we are going to fold right sides together. Okay, and you're going to be matching these up, and then once those are matched up, I'm just going to talk through the rest of it. You're going to sew these sides closed, but on one side you're going to start at the top, and your seam allowance is going to be a little bit shorter, and you're going to do that for about 1 inch, and then you're going to taper to a little bit of a bigger seam allowance, and then you're going to finish the side with that bigger seam allowance, and the instructions have it. On this side, and it doesn't matter which side you do it, I'm going to do it on this side. I'm going to leave my opening according to the pattern, but I am going to start at the top and use the smaller seam allowance for about 1 inch, and then taper and start using a larger seam allowance until I get to the part where I'm going to be leaving my opening. I'm going to back tack, and I'm going to jump down and then back tack and then finish with that larger seam allowance. Alright, so there you can see I started off small and then I tapered in. I had to resew a little bit because I got a little off, but all the way down and on that side, and then I sewed here and skipped on there for my opening. And now I'm following step 5 because we're going to box the lining. So I've already drawn out my square for each one, then I'm going to cut it out and then match up the fold to the side seam and create my boxed bottom on both sides. Alright, so I boxed the corner and then I've opened up, pressed my side seams open. And this is the side seam on the side I have my opening. I did in fact press this open as well. It's just not staying completely open right now, but I did press this back. Alright, let's move on. We're almost done. There it is. Alright, so I turned the lining inside out and then I put it inside the main part of the bag, and so I have right sides together. This is the right side of the lining to the right side of the bag. I matched up my side seams and then I clipped all the way around, and then I'm going to sew all the way around using 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then we're going to turn it inside out through that opening that we left, wherever it is. It must be over here. Right there on the side. We're going to turn the bag inside out. So I've turned it inside out, made sure to poke out my corners. Now this is the side where the opening is, and now I just retucked that material under, and now I've got to stitch it closed. Now you can hand sew this if you prefer, so you don't have the stitching being visible, but I'm just going to machine stitch it. Alright, so the lining should, it's all tucked in there, and the lining should overlap a little bit, so it will look like a binding all the way across. So what I did is I just went and I pressed it all the way around so it lays nice and flat. So you'll see it goes all the way around. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to sew right here in that seam. It's called stitching in the ditch. And I'm going to do that all the way around. Now if you want to do a decorative stitch, go ahead and do it, but I'm just going to stitch in between right there where the white meets the green. I'm just going to stitch there all the way around. Alright, so on the next step, I found the center, where is it? Somewhere near, the center of each side. And then from that center, I measured out with my first measurement according to the diagram. And then I measured out from the center a second time according to the diagram on both sides. So I should have 1, 2, 3, 4 placements for my grommets, and I did it the exact same thing to the other side. Now this unfortunately doesn't come with the kit. I ended up buying 2 more grommet packages, and this template does come if you buy the box of grommets. But I have it, and so what I did was I need to do it in permanent marker, is I continued this line all the way up. And so what you do is, I already marked 1. What you do is make sure this is even with the edge of your fabric, and that line is aligned with that mark that you made. And once it's aligned with the edge of your fabric and that is done, then you're going to take your friction pen or whatever you use for marking, and then mark through the template, and then you'll do that to each of the 4. You're not doing it to the center. You do it on the 2 marks on either side of the center for your 4 grommet placements, and then I'll flip it over and do it to the other side, but you can see the one that I made there. Alright, so now we're putting the grommets in. So you have to be really careful here because you want the lining to really lay flat, and you don't want, if you cut your circle bigger than what your grommet size is, you're in big trouble. So be very, very careful and make sure you really cut on the line. So I have my seam ripper here, and I am going to put it through and just make a rip here. And then I'm going to get my little scissors out, and I am just going to cut. Oh, I don't know if you, oh, yeah, go really, really slow. Sorry, you can't really see. And I'm just I marked the whole template. And I am just cutting kind of on the outside instead of like through the middle. Okay, there it is. All right, and then we take, where'd the other part go? Up somewhere. All right, so now you need your grommet. So you're gonna take one that looks like that and one that looks like that. It's got the little spikies in it. And then you're gonna lay this one with the rings, I don't know what you call them, underneath on the bottom. And what you cut should hopefully just, depending where you cut, squeeze around the outside first rung there. And then you take that second one and put it over. And hopefully I can do this again. Wait. And then it should just give a little press with the palm of your heel. And then it should snap into place. And that is how you put the grommets in. I'll do another one. So again, this was the center line. We skipped the center line and we only do on the out. So I'm going to put my seam ripper through. Be careful, you don't want to cut the other side, so be really careful. And then make a rip hole big enough for your scissors to go in. And make sure your lining is really pulled taut on the other side, because you want your lining to exactly match up with your front fabric, so you're cutting perfect circles out. Okay, there's that one. I'm going to go in my grommets. And I'm going to put the one, my lining one for some reason didn't cut. Alright, there it goes. I don't know why that didn't work. Alright, so now I'm going to place that in there and just make sure the fabric is kind of stretched over that first rung there. I'm going to put the one with the spikes on it. Line it up where it should be. And there it goes. I heard the snap. I don't know if you heard the snap, but I heard the snap. And that's all that's needed. Alright, so there's 3. I've got one more to do on this side, and then I'll flip it over and we'll do the other side. Alright, here's what it looks like with all of the grommets in, and I took my iron and erased my marks up there. Looks pretty good. So now we're going to attach the strap. Alright, so I've threaded my webbing through that came with the kit, and I just started on the first, sorry, like this would be my center line. I just started with the first one and went down behind and then up, and then just kept that pattern up till I made it all the way around. Now the directions, you can follow the directions and cut this shorter, but I went a little bit of a longer strap. Like it said to, lay the bag flat with the webbing snug, so you could pull it so it's a little bit snug, but you don't want it to pucker anywhere. All right, and then you can let the ends overlap here, and then like cut through, so shorten it, but I want a little bit of a longer one, so I'm just going to follow the next step, and I'm going to just lay the ends together. They're just going to butt up against each other, and then I'm going to put a pretty wide zigzag stitch on, and I'm just going to stitch, and it's going to zigzag these together, and I'm going to make sure to do it back and forth several times. So I might go down and then hit the reverse and go back, and then go forward and hit the reverse and go back, and then forward again to attach these two to each other. Alright, so I went a little crazy on mine, but anyway, I pretty much almost did the widest zigzag, and then I did it down the middle, and then I kind of shifted over and did a little bit here that would also go into the middle, and then I did a little bit on the other end, just to make sure everything was really nice and secure. It doesn't have to look pretty because you're covering it. The only thing you don't want is your handles to overlap and create bulk. Alright, so after that's done, these are, I think, handle coverings. So I fused the Shape Flex, and it left a little bit of fabric that isn't covered by Shape Flex on both of the long sides, and that's what you want. And then I took my hot ruler and I folded over so much on one side and pressed it, and then the other side the same, and then on the top. You don't need to do it to the bottom. This raw edge is going to be covered as this wraps around the handle. So I did that to both of them here. So now it's time to attach them to the handles. Alright, so I pulled the handles to the front and the back, made the sides collapse in so I could see where my handle would be in the placement. But anyway, I took my fabric, and on the front of my handle I placed the raw edge. Now, to secure it, if you have fabric glue, put some fabric glue on there and hold it so it can stay. And then basically what you're going to do is you're just going to snugly begin to wrap it around the handle. And the back here where it's folded over, that should end up on the back bottom of the handle. So I wrapped it around enough, and if yours doesn't reach, you might have to kind of wrap it a little bit more snugly, because that this part right here should be on the back side of your handle, right at the edge. It should come down right to the very edge of your webbing. So now that I've got that clipped in place, now I'm going to go along and I'm going to top stitch all the way around the perimeter, about 1/8 of an inch all the way around to secure that to the handle. And then I'm going to repeat the process to the back side. Here's what they look like, all sewn down, front and back, all the way around. And here is my other one. So there's just one more step to do. I'm going to pull the bag all the way out. I have it collapsed like it would look if you're using it, but I'm going to pull them, and then we're going to end up stitching, making sure the handles are front and centered, and then we're going to end up stitching the webbing to the side seam to just secure the webbing more in place so it doesn't shift around all the time when you're using it. So here's the side of my bag. Since my webbing was strong, I made sure this was front and centered, and then I pulled the extra on both sides out so it looked like it was even and my handles were centered front. And then I pinched the webbing to make the crease so I knew where the middle was. And then I brought that crease up and aligned it with my side seam here, trying to make sure this was even all the way across. And I'm going to take this to the machine and stitch it right there to secure the webbing to the bag. And I also did it to the other side. If you follow the directions and you don't have extra webbing, I wanted mine a little bit extra longer. It's going to fit snugly all the way around your bag, so it's going to be really easy for you to find the center. But you can see I had bulk here, and I just pulled it and made sure everything was even and centered on both sides. And then creased, when I was pulling it, I creased that extra. And then I have it attached here, and I'll sew it there. And then I will be done with my bag. Alright, so there it is, stitched down, and that way my handle won't go, my webbing won't be shifting everywhere throughout the grommets. It'll stay in place. So now all that's left is to, well, here's the inside. All right, there's my large pocket. There's my other pocket. There is my zipper pocket, and I actually kind of like that. A little bit of it is peeking out there, sorry. And that's what it looks like. It's a nice deep pocket, which I really enjoy. And then there's a little pocket there for my other ones. And then you can just pull your bag in like that, and it will be done. Actually turned out really cute. All right, so that is the Pucker Up bag tutorial, and this is the large size. You can make the petite size, which I'll probably do next just to see the size difference. But anyway, enjoy.